My name is Andy Bay, and I'm a singer and pianist and composer. Well, that goes back a very long time. I started to become fascinated with the piano at a very early age. My parents and my older siblings have told me, before I was 2 years old, actually. And I started picking out little melodies when I was 3. And I was doing little gigs when I was 5 years old. And I've been in music all my life, I guess it was because music was in the house. I had sisters, older sisters, that brought many records and used to do some singing around the house, singing Ella Fitzgerald's Lady Be Good and How High the Moon, and a lot of records by Sarah and Dinah Washington, and the gospel music, was always in the neighborhood. I heard that as a kid. I basically started playing by ear. I learned how to play a little boogie woogie from a lot of the piano players that I heard on records, or even little gigs that they would take me to when I was a kid, 5 or 6 years old. And I'd hear these older musicians, and they would teach me things, or just by listening and hearing the great blues singers that grew up around Newark, where I'm from, Newark, New Jersey. So I heard a lot of music as a kid. I was exposed to a lot of stuff. And by the time I got to junior high and arts high school in Newark, the school that Sarah Vaughan and Wayne Shorter and Woody Shaw went to, it just kept evolving as I got older. And later on, I got a few private teachers. I took some voice lessons. They were trying to make me an opera singer at one point, But jazz is, just music in general. I mean, there are no boundaries when it comes to music and how far you can take something and explore. I'm still looking for stuff. I'm still inspired. It's not about getting out there, and it's not about being famous, or it never was. I mean, yeah, I want to be able to live decently, but it was always about the music. And even through all the rough times, I could always come back to music. Not to get overly or metaphysical or spiritual, but I think it's a spiritual thing. That's something that, once it's in you, I mean, yeah, you're going to deal with all kinds of challenges along the way, because it seemed like every phase of my life there's been some kind of ups and some kind of downs, but I really don't consider them up or down. I consider them circumstances, and it has always have kept me in the music in spite of the circumstances, which have been difficult from time to time. But if something inspires you, I think that's the secret, because we're going to always have those challenges, but you can always go back to something that really inspired you from the beginning. It's not so much them telling me things, but I listened to their artistry, and it just made me want to be that good. If I could reach that kind of artistry, people like Bud Powell and Horace Silver and Miles and Coltrane, and I mean, I have had a chance to see these people, Sonny Rollins and Sarah, Ella, Dinah Washington. And I saw Billie Holiday on television, when back in 1950 when I was a kid, and I'll never forgot that experience because to me she was a natural, but she had that natural instinct. I mean, she grew up around musicians. I mean, her singing came from a certain situation in her life. I mean, even as a young kid, the stuff she had to deal with. When it all came out, it was a natural thing that she had this raw genius, When you listen to those records that she did in the 30s or the 40s and even on to the 50s, when her voice was supposedly gone, but it was still all this experience, all this, this living, and that comes through your singing. I mean, you listen to later Sarah Vaughan, from the 50s, from the early 40s to the 50s, and to the 60s and up to the time she died. I mean, it took on another meaning, because the more you experience, the more you live, the more it's going to come through your music. And you can say good or bad experiences. A lot of them took dope and drank and did all the things that that people say taboo. But it has to music has to reflect something personal in you. It's really hard. I mean, yeah, I'd listen to them and I would ask questions, but they would say the music is a sacred thing. No matter what you go through in life, the music, you keep, it never stops. That's one of the great experiences of my life, because I was very young, and so it really helped me to grow, because we were three individuals, so we kind of grew from each other. You learn how to sing with two other people, blending, and a lot of those arrangements were basically head arrangements. I could write for the bass part or some chords, but basically we worked out the harmony through me being a piano player and a musically, harmonically kind of like setting it up in some ways. But it came from the three of us. We'd have ideas for this kind of song or that kind of medley, and being a family of siblings, we had the opportunity to rehearse together. But later on, that changed. We actually worked for like 10 years together, professionally. So that was a great experience, meeting Billy Eckstine for the first time. It was the strangest thing, because we were doing our show, like just the piano and the three voices. And something must have fascinated him, because he came up on stage and sang a song. I played for him. Actually, it was All the Way, the song Frank Sinatra's hit. And I knew the song because of the Frank Sinatra's hit. And I was always trying to learn songs that fascinated me. And I played for him once again when I was in the playing a solo thing at the grand finale. But he must have trusted me. I could accompany, and for some reason I just had an ear for playing tunes. I think they have talent. It's really about you doing your homework, and not so much, you know, yeah, schooling is good. I mean, you got a lot of great readers. Not to put that down. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a reader and being technically proficient. But I think a lot of that, they're losing that gut because it's a division. It's a divided thing. It's always been divided. But people have skills, but they don't have experience, and they don't really understand what it is. I mean, yeah, you learn your craft, but you have to deal with learning life experience, and that has to be a part of your music. It's not just getting up there and saying that I'm going to be a jazz singer, or I'm going to be this. It has to be something deeper than that. And I mean, that takes time. That takes, and I'm not saying that people hang out and they jam and they do this, they sit in, but it was a different time. I got a chance to see that certain kind of love that musicians had for each other. And I don't see it now. I see people trying to get record dates, which is nothing wrong with that, but it's about something that's much deeper than that. And you learn that from living. And no matter what kind of experience you go through, it has to be some kind of truth there. I mean, you can go and you can notate solos and copy this and copy that and think that you're going to play like Coltrane, but you'll never play like Coltrane or Bud Powell or Bill Evans for that matter. Because they lived a certain life, whatever you want to call it. It was a certain kind of thing. But now they can manufacture. They can have like the American Idol or The Voice and tell you who's the greatest or who's not the greatest by somebody's stature. I mean, they were putting people out there then, in terms of making this one a star and that one a less, but there's no good or bad or wrong or right. It's just circumstances. If you allow that to get you and stop you from being inspired by something that's higher, but then that's getting into the spiritual, which is the most important thing. Not to get too distracted by whatever the world is trying to tell you. I'm just trying to stay, whatever light that I have, I'm just trying to keep that burning. Because I've done little gigs here and there, but I'm not so much trying to get out there and be famous. I mean, I never had those kind of dreams anyway. But I'm just trying to be inspired, to keep something in me that wants to be inspired, that wants something higher than me, higher than my ambitions, or higher than my wanting to, conquer the world. Because the world will conquer you in another way. I mean, I look at all these people that are, even in the pop world, you look at your television and you see all these people that are so into being famous and being, it's all right to have those things, but it's something more than that. This is Andy BEY speaking for Capsulocity.